dear listeners. Today I'd love to ask, or rather, I would say, love to start with a question, which is what if one of the most familiar objects in our lives has been quietly holding a map of reality all along? Good question, right? So, something that we have treated as entertainment, chance, or I would say a distraction, might actually be pointing toward deeper patterns about who we are and how life unfolds. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Mind Meets Machine, where we explore how hidden systems, ancient frameworks, and the modern awareness shape the way that we live. And today I'm joined by lovely guests. Please welcome Alexander and Vicky. So, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Avik. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thanks for having us.
Amazing. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us on this episode of Mind Meets Machine. And before we delve deep into our discussion today, I'd quickly love to introduce you with all the listeners. So, dear listeners, Alexander and Vicky, the sacred strategy guides for the game of life and the creators of the source card system. And dear listeners, in this episode today, we will explore the ancient language embedded in the standard deck of 52 playing cards, how it mirrors the natural cycles, and also how understanding your personal cards can reveal the patterns, purpose, and also the new ways of navigating life. So I'll not take much of your time. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again.
Yeah, thank you.
To start with, so I can call you Alex.
You could call me whatever you like.
Sure. So Alex and Vicky, like most people see a kind of deck of cards as a kind of recreational or kind of, I would say, random. So I'm really curious, like, when did you first realize that there was a deeper order and intelligence encoded in something or which is so ordinary? You can share.
Well, it's a great question. There's a lot to say about that. I don't know how much time we have to get into all of it. I'll do my best to be brief because there is a whole story to it. It's a whole kind of heroic journey quest story that whenever I've shared the full story to people, they tell me it's the most interesting life story that they've ever heard, which is my own journey starting at age 17 to eventually in the real meaning of the playing cards in my 30s. So it was, I'll cut right to the chase, I guess. I'll give you the coup de grace, the moment that it happened. I was at a party in Brooklyn. I was going through a divorce, my first marriage. I was very upset, emotionally heartbroken. And I go out to a party in Brooklyn, and there somebody says to me, "What's your birthday?" "August 30th. Why?" And he's a little calculating in his head, and he says, "Oh, that means your birth card is the 9 of hearts. And that means in this lifetime, you're going to go through tragic endings of the heart, and you're going to have to learn how to let go and move on." And it hit me like a deja vu moment. The air got thick around me, my knees buckled, because that's exactly what I was going through in my life at that moment, going through a divorce. And that was and has been the theme of my life, going through chapters of life and having relationships that I need to let go and move on from. It succinctly explained my template, my journey. And I had really looked everywhere and studied everything, going to Roman Catholic seminary, traveling to India, living in ashrams, meditating all day, becoming a swami, working with shamans, doing plant medicine ceremonies, studying philosophy at Harvard, studying every esoteric system I could find. I really and truly looked everywhere, starting from age 17 when I had a surprising spiritual awakening. And then to find in the deck of playing cards that there was this hidden truth, I think I was able to take it in because of how much I had already looked and searched, and I had not found the answer that had grabbed me. I don't know that I would have received it if I hadn't already searched everywhere and turned over every stone, because I was still very skeptical. my Harvard brain could not wrap itself around the fact that a deck of playing cards held these answers to life. So I studied on my own. I did some reading from what I could, and I started meditating on the cards. And I was doing ayahuasca ceremonies at the time. I brought the deck of cards with me, as we have here, into the ayahuasca ceremony, and I was asking the question, what do these mean? Show me the real meaning of these. What is this all about? And I started to see that it was sacred geometry, that this deck of cards, this little unbound book, was once known as the Book of Life. It comes out of the tree of life and the flower of life, all the patterns on the faces of the card, the pip patterns, we might call them, the hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades, the arrangement, the shape of the pattern, it all comes out of the tree of life, the ancient symbol coming out of the flower of life, another ancient spiritual symbol. And that's what the real meaning of these cards are. It's to show us the reality of our space-time matrix, how everything is lined up, the mathematical construct of our existence, both on a macro level of the whole of existence, but also personally for ourselves. We each have 13 cards in our life path based on our date of birth. And that template shows us our life, our path, and different aspects of ourselves. So that's when I first found it, and that's how it emerged. And then there's a lot more I could say, but that's the brief overview.
Anything, Vicky? I mean, you want to share?
Well, I found them at a cafe in Manhattan because that's where I met Alexander, who taught me about the cards. I had also been on a very long journey of self-discovery. I had a medical issue in my late 20s, and I ended up going to an energy healer after going to doctors, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And my issue was resolved in a couple of days after the healing. And that just catapulted me into the world of, spirituality, healing, self-discovery, that we are more than just our physical bodies, things like that. And so I went on my own journey. I didn't, a variation of your story. I actually was a model, so I was traveling all over, but I was really going to different churches and trying to find my spirituality and God within myself in doing that, and then going to different healers and learning about all different kinds of healing modalities and just wanted to learn everything, So then when I learned about the cards, I was like, wow, I just spent 20 years learning about myself. And in 20 minutes, you just told me all about myself based on my date of birth. And it's really true. I mean, it's this template, and it's all in this template, all of these things that I had spent all this time discovering about myself. So that really, got me. I was like, wow, that there's something to this, And then another thing that I just want to point out is when Alexander was talking about how he was channeling these sacred symbols. It's just to give you an example, we've taken the numbers off the cards. Here's the 9 of hearts, which is what Alexander, his birth card that he is playing for his life. The birth card is your purpose, what you're here to shine, your light in the world. And here's the 9 of hearts. And it's a ladder. There's no numbers. You can really see that symbol of this ladder of the 9. You can go up and down this ladder, devastating endings, letting go, or you can also transcend up the ladder. And hearts are emotions, emotional expression, holding on to your feelings, letting go of your feelings, expressing your feelings. So this is just a great example of, what we're talking about. And these symbols that he's talking about, they are sacred symbols that exude an energy, and they also show you how to play the cards well.
Amazing. Lovely. And obviously, it's a great thing that both of you met in the cafe only?
That was how we met. That was the cafe that was downstairs from my office at the time, where I was seeing my coaching clients. And I went down one day to get a coffee in the afternoon, and there was this beautiful woman sitting in the window. And I plucked up the courage to start talking to her.
You plucked up?
Yeah, I did. I did. I was about to walk out the door, and if I don't take this opportunity to say something to her, I'm going to regret it. And I mean, as a guy, it's that first ice-breaking conversation. It's hard, right? It's hard to have that first moment because she might reject you. You don't know what she's going to say. What kind of jerk is this guy talking to me? I don't want him talking to me.
And then he started talking about my cards to play. I was open. I was obviously open. It's 13 years later.
It worked.
Amazing, great. Like you mentioned about the sacred symbols also. So from there, I was thinking about uh, maybe you can say some of the common misconceptions. Like when people hear about this destiny systems or maybe the symbols that you mentioned, people often worry about like it removes the free will. So on that, like what will be your what you can say, like what's the biggest misunderstanding that people have about using the source cards?
That's a great question. I would say people do use it that way. They do use it as a fortune telling system where they imagine that the fate is going to determine the outcome and they are powerless and they're just going to look into their cards and see what the cards say. And then the cards are going to tell you what the outcome is. There are people who look at it that way because you have a life path of cards, as we mentioned, 13 in your template. And then every year you have new cards to play, dealt to you in a mathematical algorithmic formula. So if you want, you could look ahead, however old you are, and you could look ahead at your next year, fortune tell, and say, well, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. It's in the cards that way. That's not how we use it. And we're very adamant about that because that practice takes away your free will. In fact, or it presumes to take away your free will. It doesn't actually take away your free will because you still choose. But the idea, the framework is that the cards are going to tell you the answer. But in fact, that's false because you do still have free will. And if anything, knowing your cards gives you greater information with which to make decisions. So it actually enhances your free will. It gives you more information. It's like you know the weather report, so now you know better how to choose what you're going to wear when you go outside. Am I going to carry an umbrella today or am I going to put sunglasses on? Do I need a coat today or I don't need a coat? That information enhances your free will to make better decisions. But it's all a mindset. It's all how you approach it and how you look at it.
So how does knowing knowing our cards, actually expand the choices?
So in in one, if you know your life path of cards, let's just even say your birth card, it's like it's an energy that's in play that can confirm things like your purpose, like why you're here, so that you can really activate that and embody it within yourself. It is, it's, you know, acceptance is something that really, it's amazing for accepting oneself, accepting other people, because when you find out the cards that are in play, it's like, oh, there's this aha moment. No wonder my life has been this way. No wonder that person is like that. And we have that dynamic. It's shown in these cards. So it's empowering. But the first step is accepting, right? Accepting and having the awareness of what the cards are, and then utilizing them, accepting them, using them, like activating them more in your life to make decisions based on your cards versus somebody else's cards.
It helps to clarify your own decision making.
So like you describe the deck as a kind of mirror of the solar year or maybe the earth cycles. So um what does that reveal about our lives, like as a human, our lives that are patterned?
Well, how much time do you have? Because that we can go deep on that one.
I
That's
have.
what does it reveal? Well,
Yeah.
it reveals that we live in a perfectly precise mathematical construct. So it reveals that we do live in a system set up that has been intelligently designed. It squashes any notion of evolution well, not that plants and animals couldn't have evolved, but that evolution is the story of our existence. It squashes that right away because when you see that our reality is so perfectly, elegantly, mathematically precise, somebody designed it. It has a design to it. It has these nested, interwoven fractal harmonics that are represented by these cards that couldn't be by chance. So that's one thing that it reveals. The other thing it reveals is that time is made of energy. how we measure a day, it's actually a different energy frequency. And we know everything is energy. Maybe you've heard that cliche, everything is energy, but time also is energy. And the great sages of India recognize that time is an illusion. Time itself is actually an energy frequency. And that's a deeper topic, but that's what these cards also reveal. They reveal to us that everything is energy, energy patterns. And these are simply symbols that represent the energy patterns that are in play. So those are two of the big things, which, we can talk about in more depth if you want, but that's a couple of things that it reveals for us.
So, one thing, I mean, I don't know, like, how it go with it, but still, like, why? What do you think? Like, why so many people repeat the same struggles, even when they are consciously trying to change?
I believe it's because they don't know their cards to play and they're comparing themselves to other people. Like there's this, sort of the rules of what to do to be successful, or you need to do these certain things. And it's not a one size fits all, right? So Alexander's playing a heart card. I'm playing a diamond as right? So he's 9 of hearts. I'm playing the 5 of diamonds. Diamonds show up differently. I'm different in how I am going to show up and activate my power versus what he's going to do. His is about emotional expression, emotional intelligence, letting go, forgiveness. This is really important for him. Not that we all shouldn't forgive and love and express, right? It's not about that. It's more just like, what's your prime mover? How do you show up in life? You play your cards well when you are, bringing compassion and love and forgiveness, and I'm playing a 5, which is out of the box. Diamonds are what I value most, bringing a fresh perspective of something. And so it's like, I need to be like out of the box in the way I show up, like my personality, and I often bring a fresh perspective to things. Well, have you like felt it this way maybe? And, sensed that this is a different possibility, like that's how I show up. That's me playing my cards well. It's different than, how he's playing his cards. So
And that's the struggle that you're pointing out, is if Vicky didn't know that, and there's other tools out there, there's astrology, there's other wonderful toolkits that people can utilize. For us, this is the one we have resonated with the most and that we like the best, the simplicity of these cards. But we believe, and we've seen with our clients, that people struggle because they're working against themselves. They're trying to do something in the way that they believe they should do it, that their parents taught them or society taught them, their religion taught them, their school taught them. They're trying to do it that way. That's how they're going about their life, to have a relationship, to have a career. And they're struggling to do it that way, but it's not their native way to do it. It's not the best way that's best suited for them. If I'm playing the 9 of hearts, Vicky's a 5 of diamonds, we have very different ways of going about living our lives. And you would have your own way based on your cards to play. So knowing your cards to play is how you stop the struggle.
I totally understood. So, I mean, it sounds like many of the challenges, they persist not because of the failure, but because of the pattern, which uh, I'd say hasn't been seen clearly yet. Okay, obviously. So, Vicky, like as you mentioned about showing up, right? So, um, how do these unseen card patterns tend to show up in everyday life of ours? Like anything, like be it in relationship, career choices, or maybe the recurring emotional part as well.
So, okay, one way is that there are cards in play every single day.
Okay.
So just like I'm playing a 5 of diamonds, I'm born June 12th. Every day there's a card in play, right? On June 12th, everybody's going to play my cards. They're going to be affected by the 5 of diamonds on June 12th, right? But then today, for example, is Jack of clubs, right? So how can we use that energy to have the best day possible? The Jack is a generative energy and clubs represent the mind. So generating knowledge. We're generating knowledge right now on your show, right? So it's a great day for us to be on your show generating knowledge. I'm right. So that would be utilizing the energy well.
And knowing that, I might consciously take the opportunity to write something, to use my mind, clubs, to generate some information. And also, I might be aware of the downside today that I could be argumentative. Jack of
Mm.
clubs could be argumentative. So I'll be watching out for that emergence of a negative frequency of the Jack energy. And this is something we teach in our daily game with our daily game community. We teach people how to play along every single day in the game of life.
Okay, that's lovely. So, I mean, if you can share an example, like how someone who recognized a kind of long-standing patterns once they understood their cards.
The question is, how did it help them recognize a long-standing pattern?
So there are high sides and low sides to the cards. And so knowing the card, it can like show you on the low side some of the patterns you may be playing out for your entire life. So there it is. It's like, wow, okay. I can be really indecisive, and I can be scattered all over the place. Those are low side elements to the five of diamonds. So finding that out for myself, so, oh, wow, that's in my cards to play. So how do I shift that energy for myself and play the high side? Like I need to find my center and my alignment playing my cards in order to not be scattered and indecisive, right? So, just knowing the patternings on the high side and the low side to, where am I, the person can ask themselves, where am I playing the low side of these cards? There's a life path of 13 plus cards. And in that life path, there's also other cards that will show negative patterns, right? Like, for example, the Saturn card is about life lessons and challenges. And that's going to be for someone's whole life that they're experiencing that life lesson and challenge. And that keeps repeating. So that card will illuminate that for the person, you know? So, I mean, the first step is just like seeing the card and the patternings and acknowledging and accepting, wow, that's in my cards to play, that pattern keeps repeating. So the acceptance of it, the acknowledgement, the awareness. And then they're starting to, how can I learn to play the energy pattern well?
To optimize it. Do you want me to give you any specific concrete examples of people?
Please,
Okay.
please.
Because I've been doing this work for many years and Vicky's joined me in 2022. We officially joined together. But there's so many stories over the years of examples of what you're asking about. I'll give you one example of a woman who came to me for coaching. She was in her late 40s. She was a small business owner. And at the time, she said she was caught in a busy vortex, just spinning her wheels and not getting ahead. She wasn't hitting her revenue targets, and she was single as well. But she wasn't even asking about romance. She was asking about her business. How does she get out of this busy vortex and make forward progress? So I enrolled her in my coaching program, showed her cards to play. She's born to play the 9 of clubs with a 2 of hearts personality. And then from there, there's the whole life path, as Vicky mentioned. In working through her cards with her, what happened is that she told me she got clarity. She saw things clearly. And suddenly she was able to make decisive choices. She could take bold action because she had the knowing, the validation that we spoke about, where she knew for sure, this is my right way of doing this. So she was able to make bold decisions. By the end of the year, she had broken through the $1 million revenue mark, which had been her longstanding goal in business. So by learning to play her cards right, she hit her revenue target. But here's where it gets interesting. This is the part I like, is the unintended benefits when people get in harmony with themselves. She lost weight. And I've had many women tell me that I should market myself as a weight loss guru because when they get in touch with themselves and they're not struggling against themselves, the weight naturally falls off them and they start losing weight. She lost weight. She looked better. She felt better. She started exercising, which only compounded that she looked better. She met someone, fell in love, which she wasn't even asking for, but got that unintended benefit of finding romance as well, all because she shifted her focus to start playing her cards right, which enabled her to make bold decisions in her life.
It's amazing. That's really amazing. Thank you so
I
much
have
for
many
sharing.
stories like that. It starts to line up in a way that seems magical, seems effortless. It just lines up for us because we're playing our cards right. It means we're in tune, we're in harmony, literally in harmony with the fabric of reality all around us. And then we're right on time, and the right people show up at the right time, and everything lines up for us.
Exactly. That's really helpful for this episode today, I would say. And also, like for someone who is new to this work, how do you guide? Like, how does a person begin working with their life path of cards, without turning it into another belief system that they have to memorize?
Good question.
I didn't get the last part of it.
Without turning it into a belief system they have to memorize.
Ah, wow.
That's a good caveat. I like that.
Wow. So first is just learning the cards to play, going on our website, thesourcecards.com, plugging in your birthday and learning your first two cards. It's, seeing them as helpers, as tools to utilize the tools to help yourself to have the best life you can. And Alexander has written a book, Play Your Cards Right, A Sacred Guide to Life on Earth. In this book, you'll find the life path of cards. As we mentioned, this life path of cards shows all the different aspects of one's human being. The challenges, the shadow, the relationships, the Venus card, which is about love, the Mars card, how to structure life, like all the different aspects of one's life. So it's just taking in these different energy patterns and taking note of oneself and how one is showing up in life. Do they resonate with the high side of these cards? Do they resonate with the low side of these cards? Do they find that they're playing out the low side of the cards a lot? So really like taking that in, digesting the information, using it as a tool.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it doesn't have to be a belief system. Sorry, go ahead. What you wanted to
Please,
say?
please, please. No, please continue. I was just saying that I'll put this link as well into the show notes so that people definitely go there, put their date of birth and check it. So for sure, definitely, please continue.
I really like your distinction of that it's not another belief system of something to memorize. And I've worked with over the years people from all different faiths and backgrounds, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, atheist. As Vicky said, it's a toolkit, and it's even more than that, it's a language. So we talked about the visual patterning, and we're holding up the Nine of Hearts again. You can see that it's a ladder. It's a rudimentary ladder with a crossbar there and then the step. And and we teach this, when you know how to read the patterns, then there's no memorization needed. You read it as you would a visual symbolic language. And so then you can literally read it like you might read English. So you don't have to memorize it. You don't have to believe in it because you can test it. You can try it out. Start making decisions in your life based on what would be in alignment for you based on your cards to play. See how it goes. Make yourself into a guinea pig and test it out. That's what I did. That's how I tested it because
Yep.
I wanted to see, is it really and truly trustworthy? Can I base my life decisions on it? And so I tested it and it worked.
It's really,
Please.
It worked.
Yeah, you're saying something, please.
well, just it's so much about the awareness of it. It's just bringing awareness. It's just like bringing awareness to your breath. It's like bringing the awareness. When I first started learning this system, I noticed that on certain days I would wake up not feeling well. And it wasn't something like I was like, what's going to happen on this day that is this card? I was not even thinking about that at all. I would just wake up, not feel great in my body. And then I would realize that it was the Seven of Diamonds. The day was the Seven of Diamonds. And the seven is about a pivot, an adjustment. Diamonds represent the physical, anything you can perceive with your five senses. And I was really tuning into the low side of the Seven of Diamonds every time it would come around. That was
Without it.
without even knowing it. And so I was feeling that energy I had no idea all those years. I wouldn't be surprised if we went back to years and years before I even learned the system, if the days I didn't feel well were 7 of Diamonds days. So like I'm tuning into something like by default. I have no idea what's really happening, right? But then when I have the awareness that it's a 7 of Diamonds day tomorrow, it's not tomorrow. I'm just saying as an example, I can be like, I'm going to have a great 7 of Diamonds day. And I can be like, what can I do for myself? Let's look at it because it's helpful to see the pip pattern. So here's the 7 of Diamonds, right? So that pip in the center can go high and it can go low, right? Pivoting high and low. So what can I do to fill up this energy in here, fill up my cup to make me feel good so that I can play the high side of the 7 of Diamonds? So then on a 7 of Diamonds day, maybe I'm going to choose to have more self-care or downtime for myself, or book a massage, or meditate more, or whatever it is, dance in my house, put some music on, and it's giving me the guidance that is, for me to do that day to pivot my energy.
Amazing, amazing. So, I definitely love to ask one thing, and quickly, if you can share, because in our day-to-day life, definitely there'll be setbacks and all. So, even with the insight, our life still brings a lot of resistance, challenges in our daily life. So when people feel stuck again, so how do you guide? How do these source cards help them reorient them instead of spiraling into frustration?
Well, that's exactly what they do, is to help us reorient. They give us a focal point of what to look at. And there have been a lot of studies, you may know of this, studying brain pattern, how the brain works, that the brain selectively filters information based on what we choose to focus on. And there have been studies done where people are asked to focus on something and then other things are happening and they just don't even see it. Like our brain, our eyes, our perception, we don't even actually see it. So we may miss things completely and we may be looking at the wrong things, focusing on the wrong things. We may not see the opportunity, as Viki mentioned on the 7 of Diamonds day, that she now knows she has an opportunity to pivot. But if you didn't even know you have that opportunity, then your experience would be that you just feel low that day. And then because you feel low, you might judge yourself. And then you feel bad about yourself. And then you eat a tub of ice cream and then you really feel bad about yourself and it spirals. But if you have that focal point, that orientation of today, I need to focus on how I'm going to pivot my energy physically in my physical body, then that right away, just that gives you a focal point to be able to filter the information and make a different decision.
Definitely. And wow. And that ongoing relationship with the map feels more human than chasing permanent clarity. But that is definitely great. So, but before we
It is
move,
an ongoing process, to answer the other part of your question. And I'm
okay,
often telling my clients that life is a challenging game. If it weren't challenging, we'd get bored. It's still challenging. I've known about my cards to play for, 15 years now, and it's still challenging. Playing the 9 of Hearts for me is not easy. There are parts of it that are very challenging for me, but at least I have the map and I'm not flying blind.
definitely, definitely. And so before we move, I definitely love to ask Alex and Vicky, if someone wants to connect with you and want to discover more about the source cards, where they can find you.
So they can find us at thesourcecards.com. And again, start by plugging in your birthday on the homepage and seeing your first 2 cards. And then, Alexander's book does have more information on the whole life path of cards. And then if you want to connect with us, I would recommend doing the life audit. That's a great way to start to do the work and to do the work with us, because you can ask whatever questions you want in the life audit. And then we send you a recording where we, talk about your cards to play and give guidance and healing. So it's a lot of
Amazing.
fun. You can also, and we're on all the social media platforms at the Source Cards. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at the Source Cards.
So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links, details, everything into show notes. And please go check out, put your date of birth and check your source cards for definitely for sure. And also, before we move, I would love to, I'll try to summarize in short. The conversation that we had, it actually reminds us that life is, or life may not be random at all, but definitely patterned. And when we learn about the language of those patterns, we can stop fighting the game and we can definitely start playing it consciously. So, with this hope, dear listeners, thank you so much for joining on Mind Meets Machine. And if today's episode has sparked curiosity, please do remember that this wisdom is often hidden in the plain sight. So, with this hope, until next time, this is your host Avik, and this is Mind Meets Machine. Stay open, stay curious, and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avik.
Thank you.